Hi, thank you for watching the second of my video diaries regarding the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, which are taking place this Thursday. Today is the 1st of May, and I just wanted to give you a little update as to what I've been up to since my last video. So yesterday I was in Northampton for the beginning of the day, so morning and early afternoon. I was invited to attend a cafe and speak to local business owners and their regular customers. The other candidates were also invited, however they, for whatever reason, they didn't show up and they didn't contact the owners to arrange a different date, which is unfortunate because I think part of being a Police and Crime Commissioner candidate is getting out there and actually speaking to people rather than just simply delivering leaflets through the door. So some of the subjects that came up, antisocial behaviour, big issue, lack of police being seen visually on the streets, and also police complaints and how they're handled. Interestingly, on that subject, I can see the police complaints, especially at the initial phase, being something that's taken over by the Police and Crime Commissioner's office. There is a perception, which I don't think is entirely correct, that the police investigating themselves is not a fair and impartial process. I'd like to think that it was, and in my experience it always seems to have been. However, there are people that feel their complaints are not taken seriously or they're fobbed off. We need to change that. People need to feel that if there is an issue with their police, they can raise it, it will be looked into and fully investigated, and the appropriate outcome will be sought. So that's something that going forward I'd like to see the Police and Crime Commissioner's office taking over. So from Northampton I went over to Wellingborough. There was a public hustings organised by the Green Party representative. Fairly well attended, about 25 people there. And that was with all three candidates, so it was nice that the other two actually turned up to this one. And yeah, quite a lot of different questions. Wellingborough has a lot of issues with burglary at the moment, violent crime as well, and a big issue with drugs. So there were a lot of concerned residents that wanted to raise questions regarding that. One of the things that came up, and it's been a general sort of theme really during this process, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed officially. As the UKIP candidate, there tends to be a slight stigma with that role. People tend to think that UKIP are a party of racists and bigots and xenophobes. Now, I can safely say if that was the case, I would never have joined UKIP. If I'd ever witnessed anything that even remotely went down those lines, I would resign as a member of UKIP instantly. I will not tolerate racist behaviour or anything that divides our communities. I'm a very all-inclusive person. I did one of these psychometric politics tests once and I came out as being left liberal. So I'm very open. I want to engage with as many different cross-sections of the community as possible. And one of the things that I would like to do if elected as Police and Crime Commissioner is to work together with everybody. Because at the moment we sort of have these groups which are sort of dotted around an individual, and there's no real sense of everybody sitting down at the same table. At the end of the day, we all share our community. We all need to work together to cut crime and make it safer and to help victims. We can't do that if we're alienating certain sections. Now, when I was a police constable, we had to sign and declare an oath that said we would act impartially on behalf of everybody. And the same thing happens if elected Police and Crime Commissioner. Now, personally, I still stand by the oath that I originally took as a police officer, although I haven't been a police officer for years. I have always treated everybody as I find them. And I think that's the best way to go. You know, you shouldn't stereotype, you shouldn't put people into a box. You know, we're all individuals, we all have our own unique sort of way of life and experiences and religions and cultures. And that's something I love. You know, as being British to me is part of being a multicultural society and accepting different faiths and ways of life. And sort of, we're like a patchwork quilt. And I love that. I think that's fantastic. And that's one of the things why I'm very proud to be British and I love living here. But unfortunately for others, what I'm finding is rather than attacking my policies, because I think they're realising that having had experience within crime reduction, law enforcement and what have you, that a lot of the things I'm saying make sense. You know, it's about taking it back to basics and listening to people. And unfortunately the other candidates are they're not offering that. You know, they're giving out sound bites that they've been sent from head office. You know, they're waving the party banner and you know, using that to get votes. And unfortunately, I think to win this election, it's not about flying the party banner. Yes, each party representative is going to have a core vote from their party that they represent, but to win it, I firmly believe that you have to appeal across the board. You know, people that are not political, people that are affiliated or sympathetic with other parties. That's the only way to win it. You can't just focus on your core vote and ignore everybody else. And I think that's what's happened with the other two candidates. I've been really taken back by the amount of emails I've had from traditional Conservative Labour voters, Greens and Liberals as well, saying, you know, we like that you actually have experience in policing. We like that you know what you're talking about. We like that you want to listen to the people and act on our behalf rather than that of the party. And you know, that's very touching, because that was the biggest message I wanted to get across to people, was I'm here for everybody. It's really not about party politics. It's not about certainly my personal agenda, because really the only agenda I have is to succeed and fulfil the wishes of the people of Northamptonshire. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because it is something that's going to keep cropping up, and you know, I think it's bad that some people have had to resort to sort of smear tactics, really, especially given what's been going on with the Labour Party recently. It's ridiculous. You know, there's no place for it. Let's move forward together as one and sort out the problems we've got. So the next thing I want to come on to is my policy of sort of firm but fair policing, and what that actually means. Now, unfortunately, I used, I've got a copy of the Evening Telegraph here, and I used this week's one as a reference point at the hustings in Wellingborough. And if you go through the Evening Telegraph, you'll find page after page after page of somebody was burgled, somebody was assaulted, somebody was killed and the justice system's let them down, a young girl's gone missing, a group of lads were assaulted to the point where one was in a coma in the town centre somewhere. Crime after crime after crime, and it ranges through from sort of theft, burglary, assault, all the way across to serious crimes and sort of major league fraud and organised crime and things like that. I said at the hustings that if I'm elected, and after my first 4-year term, because I would like to serve 2 terms if elected, that if as a result the Evening Telegraph or the local papers are half the size they are now, because we've managed to eradicate a lot of the issues that come up each week, then that's a byproduct that I'm happy to accept. So I'm sorry to the Evening Telegraph and Chronicle and Echo, but you know, we don't want to see crime stories in the papers every single week. We want to get on with the problem of actually tackling crime. And we can only do that if we've got more police officers on the street, and I've mentioned that previously in other videos how we're going to do that. But importantly, like I said, it's about working together. We have to find partnerships, we have to build on existing partnerships and move forward together to help fight crime. Now, Wellingborough has issues, like I said, with burglary. It's probably one of the highest in the county, and we need to look at the reasons behind that. One of the frustrations I had as a police officer is often you would arrest somebody and they knew they were going to jail, so they'd then go on a crime spree and they'd basically burgle as many houses as they could or do as many robberies as they could, because they knew they were going away. So they thought, right, I'm going to get it in while I can. And then of course when it goes to court, they say, yes, I did the original one and I also did, let's say, 12 other offences. They're all taken into consideration, and you know, it's like, great, we've solved 13 crimes in total, so here's your sentence and off you go. The sentences aren't done on an individual crime basis, and I think a lot of people are feeling let down by the system, in that if they're a victim of burglary and they don't really feel they've got justice because the offender has simply sort of banded it in with a load of other crimes, that's not right. And I think we're letting people down there. So that's something we need to work in partnership with the criminal justice system to try and address. People need to feel that they've been served justice. One of the other things I'd like to mention is regarding speed cameras. Now, there's a lot of investment planned to go into mobile speed cameras, which obviously detect speeding, and some of the cameras I believe also detect whether people are wearing seatbelts or not. These are all well and good, but in my mind, people want to see police officers on the streets. Now, a police officer or a traffic officer is certainly going to be able to detect more crimes and more goings on than a camera. We need more feet on the street. You know, technology is not the answer to everything. Yes, it helps. Yes, it's a valuable tool. But our biggest asset as a police force is our people on the streets. And we need to accept that. And that's what we need to push towards. I'd much rather see a traffic officer that can actually use a bit of discretion, who targets people who are a genuine danger on our roads and on our streets, than a camera who indiscriminately targets everybody. And there's a sense of victimization. You know, there are people that have never broken the law and go about their business every day without any issues, yet they feel victimized because every time they go to work, speed cameras there, they get a fine. They've gone 3-4 miles an hour over the speed limit. I'm not saying it's right to speed. It isn't. You know, speed kills, and that's something that I positively want to crack down on. But I don't think using cameras is the way to do that. We need eyes and ears on our streets and our roads. A police officer is going to spot whether a driver is talking on their phone, whether they're weaving all over the road, whether they're drinking, looking at their phone, eating, and some of the various crazy things you see on these reality programs of people doing in their cars when they're meant to be concentrating on driving. So for me, it's about eyes and ears rather than technology. One of the other issues that came up was the scourge of drugs. Now, having been in the security industry in Corby, Kettering and Northampton for many years, most of the people I would deal with were addicts who were stealing from shops to fund their habit. And after years of doing that and seeing the same faces over and over again, you know, to the point where you pretty much know their life story because you speak to them quite a lot, you start to question, why is this person in the cycle of crime? You know, what happened? And speaking to them, they're normally very open. They say, you know, I'm from a broken home. My parents left me. They were abusive. There was alcohol involved. Grew up in a drugs house. Economic deprivation. There was no work. You know, we see things on TV, and you've got gangsters that are sort of made out to be movie stars, and people want to emulate that. There's all sorts of reasons why people get into crime, and we need to not only be the stick in terms of punishment, but we need to look at the causes of crime and what makes people get into that cycle in the first place. So for me, we need to change the culture of the police, because we've gone from a proactive police force to a reactive one, where we're simply just mopping up and handing out crime reference numbers. That's not good enough. You know, I don't want to see that. You guys don't want to see that. What we want to see are effective strategies working in partnership with different groups and communities to get people away from crime to even start with. Where they do start to cross the line into crime, that there's early intervention, that we can sort of steer them away from it. And then also, when they do commit crime, after they've had all this help and intervention, and clearly some people will go down the road of being career criminals regardless of how much help and support they're given, we need to be firm. You know, we need to say, look, we've offered you help, you didn't accept it or you didn't follow it, and we're at the point where you're now effectively a career criminal, so you're going to be dealt with firmly in terms of what happens next. So that's something we need to look at. The last point I'll make is regarding victims and the voice service that we've got. At the moment, it's very patchy. It's all over the place, and there's not a very high percentage of people that are supported by voice, and that's something that needs to change. I think there's a lot of work to do with it. We need to introduce a cradle-to-grave system. So victims of crime, when they come to us and they, you know, have that initial support, they're dealt with the same person through that process, or at least that same person is acting as a sort of an overseer of the process, so that they've always got that engagement. And we also need to realise that sometimes victims of crime, it may not be as big an impact at first, and you give them the initial support, and we sort of move on to the next person. But then a year or so down the line, that victim has, you know, emotional problems, or something comes back and it hasn't quite been sorted. So I think we need to start following up a little bit on people and saying, look, it's been 12 months, but how are you feeling now? Is there any support we could do now? Because sometimes initially people are in denial when they're victims of crime. They kind of, oh no, it's fine, I can handle it. But it dwells on them. You know, let's say they've been a victim of a burglary. They may go, oh, it's fine, you know, there's a broken window, we'll get that fixed. The insurance will pay for all the bits that were stolen. But then over the months after that, it starts to creep in that somebody was in my house. You know, somebody went through my drawers. Somebody has looked at my private things, and you should feel safe in your home. So we need to make sure that we're giving ongoing support and that it's available to help those that really need it. So again, thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate the support that's out there for me. It's very positive. There's a lot of great feedback, and you know, really touches me that people get in touch to tell me their stories and give me their support. We haven't got long to go now. Please vote on Thursday. It is important. Your vote does count. Every single vote counts, and I appreciate everybody that votes for me. So if you'd like some more information, please visit my website, samwatts.net, or you can search for me on Facebook and Twitter. I look forward to any questions you have, and hopefully I'll see you soon. I intend to do one more video before the election itself, and after that, it's up to you guys. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Bye.